Cannot hear you, coach.
Check, check. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear,
And
coach.
that is why we do audio checks before we get into it. Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Yes, it's a happy holiday Monday. Um,
What holiday is it today?
it's one of the 12 days of Christmas, I
Oh, there you
believe.
go. There you go. Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good day. Got an audio confirmation from Andrew. Audio video is good. My bad. I have an icon on my screen that shows me when I'm on mute. Um, but if you don't look at it, then it doesn't matter, right? You're
Uh,
still going to
the,
be on mute. It's like having an indicator on your chart, right? If you have it there,
yeah,
but you don't pay attention to it, why is it on your chart?
you have an excuse.
Exactly. Lioness Rain says, "My wedding anniversary and the Boston Tea Party. Congrats on your wedding anniversary, and I guess on the Tea Party as well." Um, Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may be talking about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. Let us know how your day went. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Anything that you learned from trading today? Did you just get long and hold on? Because if you did, you had a great day. I Hate Weeks says, I went from negative 5K to positive 500 on the day. I need a hug. I'll give you a virtual hug. Here we go. Um, Try to figure out what it was that you went from negative 5K. We saw Dakota do that the other day. Ideally, you don't want to be in that position, but sometimes it happens. Hopefully, that 5K is well within your daily loss limit, and you're not, coming back from what could be a catastrophic event for your account. But great recovery. Try to review what may have happened to get you to that point.
Yes, good advice. And the Media Pro, man, it locked in $450 early.
It's a
And
great day.
good day.
It is a
Miles
great day.
Shea. I need to skip trading after 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Great thing about trading on Topstep X, if you're on it, you can lock yourself out. Whatever time does not suit your best trading. If you know after 11 a.m., actually, let's go into the risk settings real quick. We're going to take a look at some of that stuff because we did add a new risk setting. But you can lock yourself out, right? You can go to the personal lockout, set lockout, determine what time that you don't want to trade. Right, if you don't want to trade overnight sessions, you can click these boxes and say lock me out of those. Or if you're coming up to 11 a.m. Eastern time and you say, hey, I don't want to trade for the next couple hours, just put the time in and lock yourself out. Ideally, we have the self discipline to just walk away, but sometimes we know, especially if you're early on in your trading career or if you just have discipline issues, it might be a little difficult to walk away. But once you click that lockout button, there's a sense of relief that, hey, even if I wanted to take another trade, I can't in an account that matters. And, sometimes we got to protect ourselves from ourselves. With that being said, there's another risk feature that was added over the weekend. You can limit yourself to the amount of trades that you take per day on TopStep. Just keep in mind if you're a person if you're going to use this feature and you're a person that scales in and out of trades, it is going to account for each execution. Like let's say you trade with micros and you're scaling in and out, it's going to count those, but you can limit yourself. Say, after 5 trades, at that point you're not making good trading decisions. Limit yourself, right? What that might do is give a little more focus. Let's say you give yourself 3 trades a day. You're likely to be less prone to just click the button because you only have three, right? Let's imagine a different circumstance, but imagine it was the zombie apocalypse and you only had 3 bullets. You're not just going to go like, you're not going to be Rambo, right? You're going to be very selective for when you use those because you're going to need them. So think about it that way. Try to figure out where your best trading fits and potentially limit yourself from there.
Well, coach, if it's the zombie apocalypse, should I buy gold and sell NASDAQ?
Uh, I think so. I think I think
I think
so.
that would be the trade
Unless they
too.
are
But
AI zombies.
um,
Uh,
speaking of zombies, and with that tool on Topstep, I use it to limit my Well, use it at 12% of my equity. That's why I use it.
Yep.
And I've been around a long time. Still, you can get caught at any time in losing your mind, getting in full tilt, and blowing things up because you are human. Um, that's the way I think that that tool is one of the best tools in the industry. Because how many times has it happened to you? I can tell you how many times I see it as being a performance coach and also being involved in the industry for 4 decades. Utilize it. It's okay to cut yourself off. It's better than blowing up an account.
100%. We didn't even introduce ourselves. We just came on here and started talking. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Top Step Performance Coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And that's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, quick introduction of yourself, but we'll get right into it.
Yeah, I'm Coach Paul. I'm a performance coach with Topstep. I've been with Topstep for a little over a year and a half. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some of my experience and knowledge and help you become a better trader.
Let's do it. So, as far as news goes today, we had some numbers come out today. We had services PMI, manufacturing PMI, and composite PMI. Services came in a little bit higher than expected, 58.5. Forecast was 55.8. Manufacturing PMI came in at 48.3. Forecast was 49.5, and the composite PMI came in at 56.6. What was forecast was 55.1. Not much else as far as planned news goes. Anything else you seeing on the news front, Coach?
Um, I guess the president-elect had a press conference
Yep.
and brought up the president of SoftBank who pledged didn't give $100 billion investment that promises many jobs. Um, I asked the margin department if I could use that in my trading, and they said no. So um, the market seemed to like that. So
Awesome. Markets just going up, making new all-time highs in the NASDAQ. And we are going to go over to the charts. Give me 1 second. Let's pull up the quote board here. 35 different markets we can trade with Top Step accounts, not just the equities. And we'd like to focus on the top percentage movers on the day. Today, to the downside, we had nat gas down 1.8%, soybean oil down 2.02%, and lean hogs down 2.42% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had the NASDAQ making new all-time highs, up 1.39%, platinum up 1.74%, and micro Bitcoin futures making new all-time highs as well, up 4.13% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. To round out our big four, we already talked about the NASDAQ, but we had the S&Ps up 0.3%. We have gold down 0.25% and crude oil down 0.98% to round out our big four. Coach, I have a NASDAQ chart up here. Do keep in mind, if you're not trading on Topstep X, if you're trading on another platform, that we are in rollover. The contract should be rolled over by tomorrow in Topstep X, so we should be trading the March contract in the equities. So prices, depending on the platform that you're trading on, may be a little bit different, but Topstep X is going to roll based on the volume traded in the contract. And once that volume switch happens, then we'll move over to the next contract.
double check that tomorrow. It is March.
Yep. Yep. Should be on March. Linus Rain says it should be by the reopen tonight. Yeah, that's when we should expect it. I don't have the volume numbers up next to me, but yeah, we should be rolled over. On Quantower, we started rolling some things over there as well. But let's look
Yeah.
at last night's. Oh, go ahead, Coach.
I do have the volume. These traded 591,000 in the mini Nasdaq, and in the D's in the March. Excuse me. In the micro Nasdaq, in the March it traded almost identical volume,
There we go.
543,000. So tomorrow it'll be like it never happened for you.
Yep.
Or tonight, because it's settlement. It's a
Correct.
settlement day, so
Correct. Contracts do expire on Friday, the 20th, but normally you'll see the rollover happen before that. But let's look at last night's open on the NASDAQ. It just went up
early and often.
early and often. Here's the first 30-minute open from last night. It took a little while. It took a little while to leave this range. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm just getting a phone call. It took a little while for the Nasdaq to leave this range, but when it did, we can see holding as a support, not looking back. VWAP leaves that range. Um, just a really nice trend day up. Uh, if I pull up your moving averages, coach, we're well above the 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. Uh, uh, what can we say here? It feels like Santa Rally, lower volume, especially with the rollover stuff happening. But we talked about this a little bit last week, and the fact that rollover is a thing and being aware of it. But it doesn't mean that markets won't move, right? We had a 1.5% move to the upside today in a market that's rolling over, right? And sometimes we can look at rollover and say, "Hey, I'm not going to trade it," or things like that. You may potentially miss a one-directional move. What are you seeing when you look at the Nasdaq chart, coach?
Well, we talked about this Friday. We looked at the weekly. There was absolutely nothing in that weekly that looked bearish. Still heavily favored upside. You might say I have a flair for the obvious, but I have developed that over many years. Um, it was it's to be bought, and it was bought early. Um, and off the U.S. Open was bought in Europe. There are no serious selling in here. That happened last week when we bounced off the 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. Um, Today was the day where you look back and go, "Why didn't I buy 5?" If you
Right.
ask yourself that, stop immediately. Stop immediately, because that can get you to go, "Well, next time I'm doing 5." Don't do it. Trade your account. The blowouts of combines and accounts are littered with that type of thought. Um, so, you know, it was a day to be bought, was shown early. Um, I'm sure there's traders out there who made some money on the downside selling it. I wouldn't be one of those. But if you did, you followed a process, and good for you. Because that's, you know, if you made money selling it today and you did well, you're awesome. You're a good trader. You went against the flow and you carved out a nice trade. Keep that up. Um, so I think there's still nothing here that tells me that this is a top. So I'll still be trying to buy it. Um, and by the way, if good trading, you should be long at the highs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
So that much more in the Nasdaq. By the way, I didn't look at I looked at the S&P. I didn't look at the Dow. Um, so we will do that a little later.
Uh, Coach, I'm gonna bring up a chart
Yep.
real quick and go on mute.
All right.
I just have to take a call real quick.
All right. What chart is this?
This is the Dow.
All right. Well, more of the same in the Dow that we had last week. Seems to be more evidence of spread selling blue chips and buying the NASDAQ. Looking at Dow, really didn't do much last night. We got some buying, was dragged up probably with the rest of them. But on the opening today, the VWAP never left the opening half an hour. We attached that VWAP on there. While price did, VWAP didn't. And we've seen this, and we touched upon this Friday. This has been going on for a good couple weeks now. So Dow ended up down 117, which at 44,000 odd is relatively unchanged, but we have more of the same. Whether it's a tax play, it's an allocation play, it's happening. So very interesting move here again in the Dow. Seems to me that this is going to continue for probably for another week. It's a trend until it isn't. And once again, if I go back to last week, we discussed this. If we squeeze out a little bit, this is almost the exact same, the same stair step down that we've been watching. Shame on me. I didn't look for it again. But I was focused on other markets, but this one is definitely that's a pattern that it seems to be an algorithm. Most likely, a large institution or institutions found some edge, or they're just rolling out of traditional blue chip stocks and putting it in um, high high tech stocks. So let's look for that pattern again tomorrow. Um, Still, once again, we're under the 200 bar moving average in the Dow. There's nothing magical about that. It's just that is a calculation of price, right? The price, and we're under that average in price, and we're under that in VWAP. That is an evidence that this market is being sold. Does it tell me where to sell it, how to sell it? No, but it gives me a roadmap. Personally, I won't buy this. Um, so if we go back to the NASDAQ, remember this, and we go back to the NASDAQ, it's over the 200. It tells me I don't want to sell it. I only want to look to buy it. That's how, when you hear me talk and say I only want to take one side of any market, that is why. It's easier for me to take losses, to know when I'm wrong. This goes back to the trading pit days where you would have a buy broker and a sell broker. Whose only job is, if you were standing by them, if you were standing by the buy broker and you were in the NASDAQ today, you would get what we call run over, because that buy broker is taking orders for buyers. So if that broker is buying, and you're standing next to him, there's a very high degree of certainty that you're going to be what? Selling it to them. And then you turn around to get out and they come back and they buy some more. So one of the things we would do is, if we were smart, is go, I can't do this anymore. I got to get away from that flow. Um, so in electronic computerized trading, one of the ways I've developed is look at the 200-day. That's the dominant direction. Don't fade it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make money trading the short side. It's just I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to fight. Um, it's just easier to buy it. Um, so we had that happen in the NASDAQ. We had the opposite happen in the Dow. And while they are both equities, they're in two different flows. And I hope that this can assist you in your decision making and whatever you're doing. So, stark example of that. And now let's go to the S&P. Okay. Last night we started out in the S&P with a bit of a buy, slow market, and if we frame out the opening range last night, we stayed with for only a couple half-hour bars before VWAP broke out. That has a bit of urgency. And what do I mean by urgency? There were buyers early, right? We made the low in the first half an hour. VWAP finished higher and within an hour or an hour and a half, the volume weighted average price VWAP left that range. So what is that telling us? That the participants we have of the market, we have an imbalance of buying. Not just by looking at the price, but looking at the volume, the average volume and price. So we held that. We went back, tested the high of the opening range, and held that. London, once again, came in, took it higher into the New York Open, where we had, once again, VWAP. Almost, it really, the 2 days, last night and the day session, almost a mirror image. Waited a couple hours, well, a couple of half hours, broke VWAP out of the opening range into new highs, where we made new highs, fiddled around on low volume overall for the day, went right back to the opening range where we are right now. Little different than NASDAQ and Dow, but
Uh, I'm still on this call, coach, but I'll just throw in a comment here. The S&Ps just look much weaker than the Nasdaq right now, right? Where we're that 6100 level, we're just having a really hard time getting over that. Uh, every time we kind of test up towards it, just not as strong. And I don't know if it's just money moving into tech instead of the 500 companies that are in the S&P, but much weaker in the S&Ps for sure.
it's a great point. We've touched upon this last week. Look at it, it's caught in a range, really, for the last 3 days. If we go to the daily, we've been in this range now for over a week. We're still holding the 20-day moving average. Another term for this is coiling. Usually when we come out of a coiling or a range bound market, you say tomato, I say tomato, coiling, range, it's usually a big move. It's a pent up energy. So when coaches creating a measured move here with the potential of a break side, an outbreak to the upside, and that would be our target. Um, Another reason for this is it's caught between being the NASDAQ and being the Dow. There's 500 stocks in the S&P. It's not easily manipulated. Um, but out of that, those tech stocks that are in it have a big influence on its price. So it's probably what's holding it up versus the Dow. Still, in a bull market, I'm going to keep an eye out on that 20-day moving average in the S&P, because if we look at the Dow daily, we broke that 20, and I think we're playing with the 50. Um, and there we are. Yeah. So today in the Dow, we're now it's a completely, like I said, it's a different market. So there's two ways that go here. If you're looking at the NASDAQ and trying to buy the Dow because it should go, you can stop doing that now. It doesn't work. If it did, I would tell you, because I used to do it. Trade each market in its own merit. There is such a thing as spreading. You would get credit if you put a trade selling the Dow, buying the NASDAQ, and if you were holding that position, you would get a margin break. This isn't the case. This is not what we're doing. So, once again, each contract, each futures is different. Trade it different as the individual. There's no reason, and I used to fall for this. Well, the Dow has got you can go one or two things. Well, the Nasdaq can't keep going up because the Dow was going down, so I sell the Nasdaq. Don't get caught in that. Don't don't try and buy the Dow because the Nasdaq is going up. Um, I've tried it. Trade them with individually. Trade them with your plan, and you're going to have a better uh, probability of success. Anything you'd like to add, Coach?
No, I agree with everything that you just said, right? We can look at multiple markets, but at the end of the day, you have to trade the market that you're in, right? Sometimes that correlation, let's say in the S&Ps, for example, if we look at the S&Ps last week, right, where if you were trying to trade the catch-up move, right, where a lot of times we say, the S&P and the NASDAQ move in tandem, there were days where the NASDAQ was up a percent and the S&Ps were stuck in that range, right? So you can use the correlations between the markets for information. But at the end of the day, you have to pay attention to the information that the market you're trading is giving to you. Linus Rain had a question here. I have an anchored VWAP from yesterday's open on MNQ. It says it's at 21,845, not going with the move. Is that real, or is that a rollover issue that will resolve tonight? Um, Here's VWAP anchored to the open last night. And yeah, it stops at 21,983, which we've seen happen, right? Sometimes the price can keep going, but there's less volume in the move. Could it be a function of rollover where uh, you know less volume is being traded towards the end of this contract, and it's moving over to the March contract potentially? But this isn't the first time, rollover or not. This isn't the first time that we've seen markets get extended from VWAP, right? What this is showing me is, at least in a shorter time frame, is there are less convinced buyers up at these prices. That doesn't mean that price isn't going to continue to move, but there's less volume buying up at these highs. Does that mean we get a reversion to the VWAP? Potentially. But we'll trade the markets that we have. But uh, this just looks like an extension from VWAP. New York Open. Okay. It's gonna be the same idea though. Gonna be the same idea, right? It's here. Okay, I can see how that's a little bit confusing there. But again, most of the volume was traded. Look at these volume spikes here, right? If we go from the New York Open, look at the amount of volume that's traded here compared to the rest of the session. Um, right, so there's much more volume traded in these two 30-minute candles than anything else that we see here. Which same idea, right? This contract is trading less volume here. All right. Anything else on the equity markets, Coach?
Nothing else that I have
I
in
think you did it.
particular.
I think you did it. Thank you for that, Coach, and thank you for that. While I had to take a call, but I should be good to go now. All right. Again, we should be rolling over tomorrow. Check your levels and anything like that. But you will see you see NQH going into tomorrow, and that's how you'll know we've rolled over to the next month.
And for those of you who knew, H will be the March, stand for the March month.
Do you know why H is March?
Um, yeah.
Because someone just decided.
No, it's Jan is F, Feb is G, H is
February starts
March.
with an F. Oh, okay, got you.
Before, and this was gone on since futures started.
Got you.
There used to be back months too. I had to know all these. So E was back month July. So I'll just leave it at that. But that's how it went.
Got you.
Why August is Q? I don't know. But it's if you studied coding, these were early coders. So they got to choose what
Got you.
characters represented what.
That's like the perfect example of and not to say anything about a software developer or coder or anything like that. It makes sense to the programmer or the developer's mind, but sometimes not to the end user. If anyone works in IT at all, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
You can program something and it makes sense to you. And it's just like, why would you do it this way? But there's always a good reason. So
And
I've always had that question. Go ahead.
that's why we have hashtags,
There we
because
right,
a coder puts a hashtag to explain to the code what was going through his or her mind.
right.
Or now, what was going through Chatty G's mind. Um, but that's why hashtag is we have hashtags.
Yep. Yeah. Andrew, I was not taking a call from the Lambo dealer. Um, that's pretty
He would.
funny.
Uh,
Uh,
it was a
but
Ferrari anyway.
it would be blue. It would be blue if I was. All right, let's get into gold. Gold under the 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. Uh, Gold is an interesting market, right? The ranges are expanding over the last couple of days. We had what looked like was going to be a continuation of the rally that we had all year. That was on Thursday of last week, Wednesday into Thursday, and then we sell off, and we're back to the sell program. Gold really has been in a range. We'll call the low of that range kind of right where we are right now, 2650s, and the high 2750s, about a 100-point range that we've been in, um, and trying to decide where it's going next, if not just staying here for the moment. Let's look at last night's open in gold. And
Yeah. Wow. That gave you plenty of opportunity to lose money every which way to me.
oh yeah, I did. I did. I lost money in gold trying to short it. Um, and it just wasn't a great trade. Didn't really go anywhere. We chopped around in this range, and uh, yeah, not much else to say there.
Um, Tug of war. Like we talked before, we're running out of 2024.
Yep.
Um, there's a classic right now. It looks like we had a liquidation, lackluster trading, so to speak. Um, Much of this move, I mean, I could account it to say the profit taking before the end of the year. That's an excuse, but
Yeah.
the bottom line is it's flopping around. By the way, gold can do this for a long time.
Yep. Yep. We've
The-
seen it just this year. We've seen it, 3 weeks of consolidation in the same price range, and then you get a crazy rally. But uh, yeah, not my favorite market to trade when it's doing this.
Yeah, and look at that. We talked about that. Look, it's almost the identical break as we had 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah.
Still
Let's see.
above the 200 moving average.
It's getting closer. It's getting
A,
closer.
a date of destiny.
And this is the December gold contract. Hasn't rolled over
Which,
yet.
wow, that's a good question. It hasn't.
Yeah, it hasn't rolled yet.
That's that's probably coming up here. Let me look at. By the way, we will roll to February in
Actually,
gold.
is this Feb already? February's G, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this did roll.
All right. I was going to say that it's getting kind of late.
Yep, this did
And
roll.
why is it G?
'Cause the coders decided to. Yeah, it makes no sense to me. February starts with an F, but uh, that's okay. But gold not really picking a direction right now. So range bound traders, maybe this is your opportunity to identify extremes of that range in order to fade. I've been trying to sell gold over the last couple of days and getting stopped out on trades before it eventually goes my way or it comes back to my entry. So for me, if I'm going to trade it, if I'm looking to the short side, uh, I'm just reminding myself to be patient and trying not to sell in the hole because that's where we've been seeing some bounces. So maybe shorting any short term rallies. But again, I'll trade the markets that present themselves to me. Anything else on gold, coach?
Nothing here except for our Christmas. Um, I'm buying people some gold.
There you go. What about digital gold?
Well, nice rally from with a gap opening, and as we talked Friday, was above the 200, um, and it was bought over the weekend. Once again, there is no open or close. This is much like gold. Um, there is no official opening. What we had last night was official futures opening, which reflected a move over the weekend. And once again, it was not an, just buy it and forget it. Uh, there's still some heat involved. That was a big opening range, big catch up trade. Held that and made new all time highs for Bitcoin. Some profit taken towards the close.
Yep.
Um,
Got a spot Bitcoin price trading at 106.64 right now. Did trade above 107 at some point today. New all time highs in Bitcoin and, of course, in the Bitcoin futures. Uh, we were talking about this a little bit, the past couple of weeks where it slowed down, right? When we got above that 100K, uh, the market needing to decide if there are new buyers going to step in here and push us, continue to push us higher. And it looks like we found them, right? They had to make some deposits maybe into their crypto accounts so they can buy more Bitcoin. But again, not a market that I want to short for a very long time. Maybe some pullback trades, but uh, it's a very hard market to find money to the short side for short trades. Not saying that it's impossible, right? We got some pullbacks here. This is a decent trade here as well, but um, it just right now seems a little bit easier to trade to the long side. Uh, and with micro Bitcoin futures, especially with trading top step accounts, 50 cents a tick, the risk management is kind of built in for you.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it has not been an easy trade. If you look at the market since we hit that 100,000 mark has been sloppy.
Yep.
Um, well, it's been spiking and wicking. Um, the easy part is over. Um, but still, kind of starting to look like a stock. Actually, kind of starting to look like NASDAQ a little.
Yeah, it does. Uh, Coach, you got a question here from Dan Trader. Might have asked you this last rollover, but have you had much success trying to arbitrage both contracts, for example, December and March, or just had to trade both to roll your position?
No, if on a swing trade, I have to roll. I'll have to sell these and buy March. It's I mean, you have to give up something to do it. Um, so it doesn't. There's a whole business of trading that arbitrage. It used to be a pretty exclusive business and a really great business, but with computer trading, for most traders, that has gone away. It's who has the fastest computer wins. The computer is at its is a calculator, right?
Yep.
Um, I was shocked when I really understood that. Like, oh, really? But everything you see is a calculation.
Right.
Um, so in the arbitrage between that, um, when the roll comes, it's been taken over by the big boys and girls or big computers. I don't know if they're boys or girls, but it's hard to do that spread. I know guys who were quote unquote spreaders that had stopped many years ago. So I wouldn't suggest trading the spread as directionally. Um, there is some reason for it, cost to carry, volatility. You're better off trading flat price. But
I agree. Uh, all right. Anything else on micro Bitcoin futures, Coach? Do we need to move the moon up to a different price?
it seems to be think, well, what's 110? 109.55?
I mean, if we're going to shoot for the moon, let's put it at 120.
All right, 120.
There we go. 120,000 is where the moon is now in micro Bitcoin futures. All right. Crude oil in the range. We have Coach Hogue weekly kickoff levels, and I heard JD mention today, and we've been talking about crude kind of being in this range between 70, 50 up to 71, and at the lows, that $68 range, we'll call it. I feel like every time I quote that range, I change the prices just a little bit, but you guys get the idea. Uh, I heard JD mention today that Hogue has not changed his weekly kickoff levels in crude oil for 3 weeks, uh, which is pretty crazy, right? Weekly kickoff low has been 66.90. Weekly kickoff high has been 71.20 for the past 3 weeks. And if we want to take some of this stuff off the charts, if we can look at some of the top step daily levels, I'm going to take all of these off of here. Just look at the weekly kickoffs. You can kind of see them here. Is that clear? Let's make those lines a little bit bigger. I mean, this is on a daily chart, but uh, we can see crude oil does not want to trade outside of these prices for very long. So coming into today, and we've been talking about, if you're going to trade crude, trading it like a range bound trader, maybe staying out of the middle because there's a little bit more risk there. Where do you lean on as far as an intraday trade? But once we get up to this weekly kickoff high, right, this is actually the trade that I was trying to take on Friday when I was on with Dakota, right before we got off. I talked about taking a crude oil short at 71.20. We just kind of ran out of time for the day, but you can see it today right off of that 71.20 area, Hoag's weekly kickoff, and a really nice sell off from there. 70 ticks, which is a pretty good move in crude oil if you can catch it. I haven't traded it much at all recently, but I do like the fact that these areas are presenting good trades, right? This is one where you can maybe set a limit order and allow the market to tag you in. If you can define the risk or at least set an alert and see how the market is approaching these levels. But when we can see it, when we push up to them, there's no convinced buying up at the highs and not much convinced selling at the lows. The markets are just turning around at these areas. So spots to lean on, but not a market that I think you need to stare at to take a trade every day.
The 200-day moving average in the crude is within 20 cents of where it was in May. It's something,
It's a flat line.
I, it's a flat line. It's a flat market. It will be a great uh, range trade until it ain't.
Yep.
Um, what 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 does it take to blow out of that range? The only thing I can think of is a cure for crude oil. Um, to the downside, at least.
Right.
Maybe a war or something, but it's a balanced market.
Very
This
much so.
happens in every market. I was once in the soybean market where it was. This was early in my career. The average range was less than 2 pennies a day. I'm gonna do some
Wow.
math for you. The range was less than 100. It was horrible.
That's tough.
And when that happens, there's no volume. So you can say, well, just it's easy. You bring up your size and you bid. No, there was no volume. No one's trading it.
Yeah.
It seems it's coming to that point in the crude.
Yep. Yeah. If we look at the volume on the daily, it's just slowly decreasing. Since September, right? That volume moving average is just lower and lower as we continue on. And if we remember, the volatility that we had in crude this year was headline based, right? It was escalations in the Middle East, and then we saw crude push up near that $80 level. Um, but outside of that, once these things started to cool down, we're back into this range. And like you said, Coach, what is it going to take for us to move out of this? Unfortunately for crude, it has to be an event, right? It is what it seems like. It is a commodity, so uh, you know there are other things. It's not like the equities where they just continue to go up. Uh, Speaking of energies, the one that's been in the top percentage movers, nat gas, wasn't a great trade today. I know we've been talking about maybe if you're not trading crude to potentially look at nat gas. Nat gas had the Sunday gap down that it always does, set the high for the day pretty much on that open, but a fairly balanced market today as well. Anything on nat gas, Coach?
Yeah, looking weak. To me, last week, I think it was Thursday, we hit the 200-day moving average, rejected it. It's like every week on Wednesday we try it and then we fade down. But um, this time for sure, right? But I would say that gap down, it didn't fill it. Came back. It's the end of the year. I looked at it last night. I didn't see a place I could take any good risk, and didn't look at it again. So
There you go.
I think it's give it a rest here. Um, Enjoy the holiday. Mm, take a look at it again in a couple weeks from my perspective.
Awesome. We got a question here from 27 Color. Hi, coach. I have a payout question that I hope you can help me with. I have 5 winning days of 200 in my XFA. My total profit is $1,200. Can I request a payout? If yes, how much will you recommend? Well, first, congratulations on getting your account to that point. If you have 5 winning days over $200, you are eligible for a payout in that account. Now, the how much will we recommend? That is subjective. That's going to depend on each person. But if you're trading a 50K account, right? Let's say it's a uh, 50K XFA. You have been accustomed to trading with a $2,000 drawdown in that account, right? The account starts off with $2,000 worth of drawdown. Right now, your account is at 1,200. So the most you could take in a payout is $600. Remember though, when you request a payout, you are your trailing drawdown goes to $0, right? So right now you have $1,200 in your account. The max loss limit on your account should be at negative $800, right? So you still have that buffer, right? You still have $2,000 worth of drawdown in your account. If you take a payout now, great, right? And we should be paying ourselves. We should be looking to pay ourselves. But let's say you take half. The $2,000 that you have in drawdown is now $600, right? Are you comfortable trading with that small of a drawdown, right? Now, could you take a couple hundred, maybe take $100 out to pay for the account, right? Take $200 out, you pay for your combine and your activation fee, right? And now you're at zero. But you still, if you take 200, you still have $1,000 drawdown available in that account where you don't have to change anything logistically about the way you trade. Um, I always tell traders take a payout if and when you need to, because we do need to realize the work that we do. But just be sure that whatever you take out is not affecting the way you operate on a day to day basis. Coach, what would you suggest on that?
The $200, because it it's like you said, you have to be comfortable. And if you just run into a drawdown, you can't really put the money back in.
Right,
So um be conservative with it. If I would actually add, if you don't really need it right now, build a little more buffer.
right.
If you don't, if not, take 200, 100, but pay for another combine. That makes sense. But I would say be conservative.
Agreed. Agreed. We got a question. Does the trailing drawdown ever stop rising on the XFA? It does, right? So once you clear that initial drawdown, right? So for a 50K account, the initial drawdown is 2 grand. Once you make over 2 grand, then it stops trailing you. And like Coach just said, right? If you don't need it, maybe that's the point where anything above that initial drawdown, maybe you consider that as eligible for payouts for your account. So then you never have to adjust your uh, right? That 2,000 even could be zero for your account, right? Where you don't have to adjust your logistics around the drawdown. But it does stop trailing you. But you have to clear that initial drawdown, right? So 2K on a 50K account, 3 grand on a 100K account, and 4,500 on a 150K account. At that point, everything else from there stops trailing you. But great question. It's not one that we talk about often, and I think the drawdown moving to zero thing is not something people take into account a lot of times. Um, where you could technically have an account that has $500 in it and take a payout of $250. And if you need to pay yourself, but do what you can to pay yourself and keep the account alive.
Great advice, Coach.
Thanks. What other markets do we want to talk about? We got 5 minutes left here. Or if you guys have any other
One
questions, let us know.
of my favorite, Japanese yen.
Let's look at it. I saw what the 30-year did today, so
Yeah, took 30 years to build a winner. No, pretty dead. But the Japanese yen had a nice little trade from the evening session.
Yeah, this looks really good. Just a market that's in a downtrend looks a lot like the. Is there any correlation between the yen and the Dow?
Um, yeah, I guess there could be. There's
Yeah,
definitely a correlation between that and the treasuries.
right.
But it was, you know, nice little low risk, decent return. Um, Still looks, yeah, like you said, it looks like the Dow just stair stepping its way.
Yeah,
Hmm.
just stair stepping lower, holding that 50 moving average on the 30-minute. Let's go out to a daily real quick, and then we got some good questions in the chat that I want to get to before we get out of here. But looking at the daily, coach, we're under the 200. I feel like we were just talking about this. What was it, last week or 2 weeks
Hmm.
ago? That rejection at that 200 moving average on the daily. Um, I know at Top Step we're day trading, but if you have this is a great swing trade right here. Um,
Yeah, it is.
I think I know somebody that might be in it, but just a really nice trade. We are coming down near these yearly lows again. We are, less than about 2.5% off the yearly low. Uh, we know this is where, Bank of Japan intervention came in and kind of spiked us up. But yeah, this market still looked very heavy.
Yeah, it tried. It gave the old college try to rally, sparked by some central bank intervention. You know, the long trend is down. I don't see any reason for it to change. And it's been giving it's a great place to trade small for the day. Actually, I still think it's a great place to learn how to trade.
Yeah.
You're not going once in a while you get some drama, but it's not a drama driven trade. But still trending lower. Nice trade last night. Picked up a couple shekels without much heat.
It's the ideal trade there.
Yeah.
Not a lot of risk for some decent reward. You could have got a 5-1 on something like this. And you don't have to capture all of that, but just a really nice move, right? Capturing a piece of this, you did your job for the day. Really nice trade, coach.
Yeah. Thank you.
Uh, we got a question here. Is there a difference between getting to live with the 50, 100K, and 150K? There's really no difference. There's no uh, set criteria that's known to us, at least, right? The risk management team has their own parameters for what they move over. Just trade well. Trade well. I would say don't even trade with the goal of getting to a live account. Just trade and be surprised by the email when it happens. And then once you get that call up, just continue trading the way you have been. We got a question here from Kevin S. Coach. I think this is an important one. One that I think we are both uh, well suited to answer. What basketball drills do you recommend for a 5-year-old?
Good question. V dribble.
Yep.
Get used to the V dribble. Get used to snapping your wrist. Teach them, the ball control comes from spin. Make it fun.
Yeah.
And one last thing, coach, and I think this is since COVID. I don't think kids are taught how to catch anymore.
Hmm.
And I'm
How to
not
catch
being
a pass?
snide at. I'm really not. I see
Yeah.
so many drop passes. So players catch with a nice soft ball,
Yep.
um, and diamond hands, um, with a little claw, but getting to just pass and catch is one of the things I don't suggest putting pressure on shooting right away for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Have that small where they can go, but if you put too much pressure on making it, it becomes angst
Yep. 100%.
versus fun. So keep it fun. Start with a V dribble. That's my
Uh, I like what Coach just said about shooting. If you look at how, it's funny, when I was coaching, I went to a USA basketball seminar, and they were saying that we wish there was some standardization for basketball in the U.S. Because if you look at other countries, the reason their players are getting better is because there's a standard for how they teach youth basketball. And if you look at countries like China, none of their kids under a certain age are shooting on 10-foot rims because they're shooting over their shoulder, right? So when you get older, at some point you're going to have to adjust that, right? But if you want to learn form, have a kid that's that young shoot on something that's relative height wise, right? So if you have an adjustable basketball hoop at your house, for example, right, where you can pull it down to 7.5 feet, that might be more attainable. And then your kid is learning form, and then as they grow, then they can shoot more comfortably on 10 feet. So I would say, uh, you know, if you're going to shoot, shoot on something that is their height, and then like Coach said, with dribbling, just get comfortable playing with both hands. V dribble in and out, passing with both hands, um, and encourage creativity. Also,
Ah,
encourage creativity. Right? Let your if you see your kid try to do like some 360 layup, if they're doing it all the time, different story. But if they want to try it out every once in a while, just let them go.
that goes back to having fun.
Yep.
And you're right. I had an assistant coach who grew up in Serbia, played for the Serbian national team, played in Europe, and they teach in trenches.
Mm,
Um, so it doesn't do any good to throw a round orange ball at a cylinder if you don't build the fundamentals.
yep.
Just like trading, if you don't
100%.
master the fundamentals, the rest is going to be very hard to achieve.
Agreed. One more question, and we'll get out of here. From Nelson, when is it time to walk away from trading? Took some payouts, but got crushed trying to short the Nasdaq today. Thanks, coaches. If you took some payouts, you're doing something right. If you got crushed trying to, that's a question for you to answer, Nelson. Today was one trading day, right? Is one trading day enough to pull you away from trading? And if it is, I think you have to ask why, right? It's a difficult thing to do. It's a really difficult thing to do. But sometimes we make it a little bit more difficult than it has to be. Uh, so I think for you, you've taken payouts, so you've taken money out of the markets, which is great. Determine if it's something that you want to continue to do. And it's not always about being right, right? Accepting the risk side of it and accepting loss is a big thing. What would you say to that, coach?
Um, uh, Ditto, you got payouts. That's a pretty good thing,
Yep.
right? That's success. It's not easy. Um, but sometimes we slip. Did you slip because you got angry? Um, is that a whole reason to just give up? Or my suggestion is to really identify that. What happened for you to blow up? And face it straight on. If it's something that you don't think you can overcome, yeah, sometimes it's a good idea to stop. But if it's something that happened because um, you let your guard down, well, you got a great lesson right there.
Yep.
And then you'll be better for it. But if it's something that's happened and it keeps happening, then you have reason to really doubt whether you can do it.
Yep. Have that honest conversation with yourself. We are 5 minutes over. I think Coach Hoop is running a class in Discord, so I want to make sure he has the time and we give him his time. So join Coach Hoop if you have not done so already. I think he's going right 10 minutes after us. And then we have Coach Ray in Discord at 6 p.m. and then Coach Vince at 7. Of course, Dakota slow markets at 7:30 Central and Deanna with the London Open at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. I will be on Fast Markets tomorrow with Dakota, so I will see you all then. Coach, anything before we go?
Um, Trade well, plan your trade your plan, and best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already on the way out, and we will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye.